Ssr Kenpachi is the newest available character in Bleach Soul Resonance, and a character that recently received some very good upgrades that now make him the best DPS character in the entire game. And if you want your Kenpachi to feel like the Kenpachi, well, in today's video we're going to be going over the best build for the character, his best teams, and how to best utilize this character so you can solo all the content coming your way. So with that said, Kenpachi is a fairly simple character that everything he does in this game contributes to him dealing millions of damage. The whole idea with Kenpachi as a character is that you want to be building frenzy points. But how exactly are you going to do that? Well, the best way to do it is by using this character's technique. Kenpachi's technique lunges at an enemy and deals more damage at the end, but does also gain 1 point of frenzy. Alongside that, with the most recent buff the character did gain, after that technique is used, you can continue using your basic attack combo and land the final hit. And that's important because the final hit of his basic attack does also give Kenpachi 1 stack of frenzy. Once the character has 2 stacks of frenzy, you are then free to use this character's special attack. The special attack itself deals a lot of damage and also gains a lot of spiritual pressure. Keep in mind, you can manually gain spiritual pressure by using its technique and also basic attack. Once the spiritual pressure gauge is full, you then get a free use of Kenpachi's enhanced technique, which is very similar in a way to how Shikai Ichigo does work. In this case, the enhanced technique is called Spiritual Pressure Burst, and it just deals a lot of damage and allows for free follow-up attacks of your basic attack. That is the main way this character is going to play, and for the most part, you're going to repeat those attacks until the character's ultimate is ready. And with that in mind, Kenpachi's ultimate is very similar to Ichigo's. Upon pressing the ultimate, you will be taking off your eye patch and deal a big attack equal to 2000% of Kenpachi's attack. After that, for 15 seconds, you have now entered the War Wraith state. And during this state, you can only use your basic attack combo. But the basic attacks have been increased, and each attack now generates ultimate energy. After you slash the enemy 10 times, at this point your ultimate is now ready to be used, where in this case Kenpachi grips his blade with both hands and deals a devastating blow. In this case, upwards of 3,396% of his attack. And that's pretty much the main gameplay loop for this character. However, due to the character's passive effect, there is also a bit of extra stuff going on. So for example, specifically with the Cleave core passive, Kenpachi's special attacks, Spiritual Pressure Burst, and ultimate are Sever attacks that can apply Sever points. Upon reaching 100 Sever points, the enemy will then be inflicted with Cleave, and applying Sever attacks to a cleaved enemy then deals extra cleave damage equal to 20% of that attack, which is then counted as element damage. So not only is this character dealing damage on his special attack, his technique, his ultimate, he's also applying element damage. And this passive itself is going to add a lot of extra damage to the character, and why you might also want to build element damage on this character. But quickly going through the character's passive boost effects, his first passive reduces the damage that he does take by 60% when using special attacks, Spiritual Pressure Burst, and ultimates. This is a really good passive boost effect given that the character itself does have very long animations and in a way is open to plenty of attacks. But with this 60% damage taken being reduced, Kenpachi feels like the Kenpachi and kind of ignores it. His second passive does build up Kenpachi's excitement because every 2 seconds you gain a stack of 2.5% attack, which does stack up to 10 times. It's a permanent attack boost, giving you overall 25% more attack. And then Kenpachi's third passive boost effect, after acquiring a stack of frenzy, which again you can gain by using the character's technique or the final hits of his basic attack, you are going to gain a 90% special attack damage bonus for 15 seconds. Additionally, if Kenpachi defeats any enemy, he also does gain an additional frenzy stack. So all of those things combined make Ssr the Kenpachi. But how exactly are you going to build him? Well, when it comes to the stamps, you're going to want to use Ready to Go. This is a unique stamp set for him, which increases attack by 20% for the 2-piece effect, and the 3-piece effect increases his crit damage by 50%, and each time Cleave is applied to an enemy, the element damage to your Sever attacks is increased by an additional 12%, lasting 30 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. This piece, after all, was designed for Kenpachi, but it is perfect for him. More attack percentage, more crit rate percentage, and also more element damage. In regards to how you want to build the character, for the first piece, attack percentage or slash damage bonus is the best basic stat to get, and for the advanced stats, attack percentage, crit rate, crit damage, ultimate charge rate or element damage are all good stats to roll. For the second piece, definitely go with crit rate percentage. That's assuming your character is B0. If your character is B2, due to the boundary effect the character does get, at that point you might be better going with crit damage. But right now for B0, personally I find great success with crit rate percentage. And then lastly for the third stat, I personally am using element damage bonus. Since this character can inflict a lot of element damage, increasing that by an additional 80% I think is a good thing to do, because it's consistent damage output too. And personally for my build, it's one of the main ways Kenpachi can deal damage. Continuing on for this character's skills, you definitely want to prioritize the passive effects as they do give pretty good bonuses. Remember, you do get a special attack bonus through one of them, you do decrease the damage that you do take, and you also do increase the amount of attack that you can gain. So first priority with this character should definitely to be building up his passive effects. Then after that, ultimate and technique are the next best thing to do, with basic attack following that, and then also lastly the counter effects. Like always, you do want to max out all his skills, but if you are limited on resources, definitely prioritize his ultimate. Now, to make Kenpachi feel even more powerful, it's definitely important you do get the character's weapon stamp. At this point, we are currently over 2 months into the game, and most players should realize by now that if you can't get the weapon stamp for a character, maybe it's just not worth getting the character. For the case of Kenpachi, his weapon stamp increases his damage output, but overall makes the rotations for his gameplay a lot smoother, and that's specifically seen in the first effect. Releasing the final hit of a special attack returns 1 point of frenzy. This ensures that when you are using this character's special attack, which does consume 2 stacks of frenzy, you only then need to follow up with a basic attack combo to get 2 stacks of frenzy once more. Alternatively, however, if you do defeat an enemy due to his passive effect, he also does gain another stack of frenzy. So while using that special attack, if it does defeat an enemy, you instantly get to use the special attack again. So when you are up against a bunch of enemies and not just one singular boss, his special attack definitely gets to shine a lot more. And it means you don't really need to do much with this character besides hold down the basic attack button, which I think is actually really fun. Additionally, it does increase the damage dealt by the technique by 50%. This goes for both his first technique and also the enhanced one. And a big part about this weapon stamp is the final effect, where if Kenpachi does land a critical hit, it triggers an additional hit, dealing damage equal to 20% of the attack. And that's important, this character is capable of dealing a lot of damage. So like I said already, every part about this character's kit is contributing to Kenpachi's overall max damage output. And this is the first of its kind, but you will see in the gameplay section of Kenpachi that the weapon stamp does actually add millions of extra damage. And then as for Kenpachi's core stamp, this is also very important to get because it does offer a lot of effects here. So in this case, when casting the ultimate, full power, all enemies are inflicted with cleave instantly. If they are already affected by cleave, its duration is extended by 8 seconds. While War Wraith is active, this is when you activate your ultimates, each basic attack increases the damage of the ultimate Kendo by 10%, stacking up to 10 times. So when you are in the War Wraith state, you will notice that counter going up. Once you do see 10, that gives you full opportunity to use the ultimate, knowing your ultimate is now dealing double damage. Additionally though, releasing the technique, Spiritual Pressure Burst, and its follow-up attacks grants 1 stack of a buff that increases technique damage by 25% for 5 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. So overall, more damage for using your techniques, your Spiritual Pressure Burst, and your follow-up attacks. And this character's gameplay does allow for all these attacks to be used in consecutive usage. So very easy to get those boost effects. And then most recently, thanks to this character recently getting buffed, after using a special attack, Rampage Raid, you will gain 1 stack of a buff that increases your crit rate by 10% for 30 seconds, stacking up to 2 times. So more crit rate for this character, allowing him to deal more damage. And that's important because if we go back to the weapon stamp, remember every time Kenpachi lands a critical hit, he does deal additional damage. And then for the final build, if you are going with the element damage bonus that I personally went with, well, if you do use Gin's bond effects, it does increase your technique damage by 32%, and if your element damage is above 80%, which is very easily done specifically through that third piece, you do get 80% more element damage. So if you're wondering now what Kenpachi's best team consists of, well, there are 4 characters that you can use. Currently, one of them is not available in the game right now. So like always, when it comes to building any team, you're always going to use Kisuke. You're never not using Kisuke. He's by far the best support character in the game, providing a 70% attack boost, while also giving more critical damage upon using the character's ultimates. For the third character in the team, there are technically 3 options, maybe 4 options that you can use right now. The first option is using Yachiru. Yachiru is a slash support character, very similar to Kisuke, but the great part about Yachiru right now is the buffs that she does give. So in particular, through Spectate, she does give a 20% attack boost. Through Inspiration, she does give a slash damage boost. But if you are specifically in a team with Kenpachi, that bonus from Spectate and Inspiration is increased by 1.5 times. So overall, more attack, more slash damage, and through Yachiru's weapon stamp, she does give more crit damage. And then lastly, through her core stamp, she does actually give 30% more crit rate, specifically after the character does use her ultimate. And Kenpachi's capabilities of hitting criticals are very important for his damage output, so Yachiru, given all those buffs, just make her the best character to use alongside Kenpachi. So much so, you can actually use it in exchange for Byakuya. The reason why Byakuya would want to be used on this team is due to the slash damage bonus that he does give as a tactic unit, and also the fact that he does lower slash resistance. Personally, I don't like Byakuya's gameplay, and I much prefer having Yachiru in the team, as she only needs to use her technique once and never to be switched in again. It gives me more time to focus on Kenpachi on the field, and if you are someone that, in a way, doesn't like switching so many times during a rotation, a team like this does give Kenpachi more screen presence. Likewise, you can just use Aizen. Aizen's a really good character. This team definitely does work, and in the future, the character isn't available just yet, but Nelio right now does seem to be a new slash tactic unit, so she likely will be the next best character to use alongside Kisuke and also Kenpachi. Now, one great thing about Kenpachi as a character is, in a way, the animations taking a very long time. As you'll see here, Kenpachi, after using a technique, does lunge at the enemy and deals a bunch of slashes. Likewise, if we use the character's special attack, specifically the special attack, it does do a continuous slash of attacks with a final slash knocking down the enemy. Additionally, the enhanced technique, it's a 3 attack combo with a big wind up to the attack. And the great part about this is that you can actually quick swap out of the character, and Kenpachi will continue doing his attacks. So for example, if we go ahead and use the technique, you'll see here, we can switch out, he's still attacking and finishes the technique while we're also building up our attack boost with the use of Kisuke. If we have a look at the character special attack, we can instantly switch out of Kenpachi, go into Yachiru, reapply our boost effects with Kisuke, all before Kenpachi even finishes his final attack of the special attack. And you can also use that with the enhanced technique, so I like to do the 2 slashes, finish the final one, and then go back into Kisuke, and this can just save a few seconds of time per rotation if you want to really maximize your damage output with Kenpachi as a character. So with that said, now let's go ahead and do a 2-minute timer and see how much damage we can do in 10 minutes. So start off with Yachiru to get the spectate damage bonus, go to Kisuke, apply the special attacks and give us that attack boost, and then go to Kenpachi, where we're going to use the technique, continue tapping with the basic attack, which does give us our 2 stacks of frenzy, where we then get a free use of the special attack. Normally this does knock back the enemy, so we do get to use a few basic attacks, which then does give us enough spiritual pressure to use the enhanced technique. And again, while during that, I could have switched out to Kisuke much sooner to reapply the boost. Let's use our technique. Get the special attack off again. Once more, a few more basic attacks, where we get to use the enhanced technique. And then we're going to use Yachiru's ultimate, and then instantly apply our ultimate. Take off the eye patch. We now have the crit rate bonus, and we want to do all this damage as quick as possible before the buffs from Kisuke do wear off. So in that case, let's let off with the Kendo. Big slash 1.9 million upwards to 3.9. And that is our first rotation all done in under a minute, where we're then going to repeat that again. So right now we're looking on schedule for around 60 million damage in 2 minutes, which is actually pretty good. Again, for B0, right? This is without any dupe investment. When you get duplicates, things do change a little bit. But right now we're strictly looking at the character at base level. So again, we'll do our 2 slashes. Go back into Kisuke. That slash continues. Use our ultimate again, and then straight back into Kenpachi. Use the technique, keeping Ikaku in the air. Into the special attack. Few more basic attacks. We're going to use the Yachiru ultimate. And then we get to use our ultimate again. And we should again be able to do all the 10 slashes before the crit damage boost wears off. Maybe it's a bit timing. I should have been maybe a bit faster. Nope. Seems like we were able to get off the ultimate before the boost effects did wear off. And again, we're looking at another 3 million damage. 20 seconds to go. Repeating the rotation again. Now we're trying to squeeze as much damage out as possible. Spiritual pressure bar has been depleted. 60 million damage has now officially been achieved. And we're going to finish off with the final 3 slashes from Kenpachi. So there we go. 60 million damage is absolutely crazy for Kenpachi, and it strictly came from him. But how exactly is the damage calculated with this character? Well, like I said, since I am going with the ailment damage bonus on my third piece, also using the Gin set, we are getting a lot of extra ailment damage, and 16 million, the most damaging thing from Kenpachi, is specifically through the cleave anomaly. Like mentioned, every time we do hit a critical, we get bonus damage from the weapon stamp, Blade of Lament. And that does make up 19%, 12 million damage. So really good having a high crit rate, also having Yachiru in the team, because she does provide more crit rate. After that, solid damage from the technique, ultimate, and also special attack. 6 million, 7 million, 8 million. Pretty much every part about Kenpachi is dealing a lot of damage here. The base technique, not the enhanced one, dealing 5 million. The ultimate, only dealing 2 million. Funny enough. But to be fair, the ultimate is split into different parts, so we technically dealt 4 million there. And through the ultimate with the crits, we're also, most of the damage did come from the weapon stamp. As you'll see here, why I do personally like this team, as Kenpachi does take majority of the gameplay presence. Yachiru is only in for 2 seconds to use the technique and then to never be switched in again. Kisuke is only on the field for less than 5 seconds at a time, while Kenpachi is there for majority of the time, dealing most of the damage. With Byakuya in the team, with Aizen in the team, even though Aizen is a really good partner with Kenpachi, you're switching a lot. And I like just staying with one character, and that's what Kenpachi in this team does offer. So overall, Kenpachi is an absolute beast in Bleach Soul Resonance. After the boss, it's a character truly worthy of the title, easily the best damage dealing character in the game, and at the same time, in my opinion, one of the more fun characters in the game. His gameplay is super fun, especially in the team that you can use him in. My preference, Yachiru and also Kisuke. So that overall just makes him a joy to play with. And right now is my go-to for a soul character in any content I can use him in, which right now is a lot. At first, I originally thought this character was kind of hard to build because he wants ailment damage, he wants crit rate, he wants crit damage, he wants attack percentage, but the build is relatively straightforward, especially if you follow my desired build path. I think this works great for him. Makes his damage output fairly consistent. No matter what I do in a quest, I'm always going to be dealing 60 million damage in 2 minutes, which is really good for a B0 character. In the comments below, though, let me know how you guys feel about the Kenpachi, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, and peace.